Hello and welcome to Navigating to Success. I'm Jeff Carlton, your host, and I'm super excited today to welcome a fellow veteran, Ben Minden, founder of Bear Hug Cattle Company and an associate with Hivers and Strivers Capital. Um, this guy's a mover and a shaker. Uh, Honor graduate from West Point, 101st Airborne. Went out, got a Ranger tab, served in a few other units for a few years. He wasn't done there. He did his service and got an MBA from Harvard Business School, and he's founded an incredibly valuable organization with the Bear Hug Cattle Company in Bozeman, Montana. I'm going to let Ben tell you all about what he's doing. Go
Awesome.
ahead,
Well,
Ben.
thanks for
Yeah, you bet.
yeah, so that's a overly generous introduction for sure. But I did start a nonprofit a number of years ago called Bear Hug Cattle Company. It's a 501(c)(3) with the mission of helping veterans who are transitioning out of their service get kind of their foot in the door in the ranching industry. So we're hyper focused on the job training and learning the hard skills that one would need in order to get their first job on a ranch. And so we put on a 10-week long course every summer where we take 4 veterans at a time, and we go to 7 or 8 different ranches throughout Wyoming, Colorado, and Montana, and expose the veterans who are transitioning to industry leaders, professionals, get them a ton of on-the-job experience, and then we also run our own cattle operation in Wilsaw, Montana.
How many head of cattle are you running?
This past year we did 225 pair, so about 450.
Right on. Um, so what was your spark for doing this when you got out? Because you pretty much jumped right out of the service and formed Bear Hug. What was the purpose?
Yeah, so the spark for doing it was something that I had gotten interested in with a buddy. Um, just kind of riding horses and doing stuff like that. And then the more I did it, the more I kind of fell in love with it and started riding some cutting horses when I was stationed at Fort Benning, and started roping a little and working on some places down there. And just really fell in love with the community of people who were involved in that industry. And then when I got out of the Army, I just poked around, cowboyed around in Montana and Colorado and Wyoming, and eventually ended up at business school. But even more so, then fell in love with it out west, and had actually started the nonprofit while I was still in the Army, and then just kind of continued to grow it over the last number of years while I've been out.
So what has been um, so what has been the biggest challenge to creating the business for you? And you're really kind of what's the difference between, because it's easy to form a company, right? It's filing a few documents, cost you 35, $50, but what has been your biggest challenge in running it as a business?
Yeah, I think maybe what I'll describe is not a problem that only I have faced, but I think when you're starting a business that's unique or not really been done before, you end up doing a lot of the work just by yourself with a few key people at the beginning, and it ends up, as the business grows, if you stay doing the vast majority of the work, it gets overwhelming pretty quickly. So if you're doing all the administrative stuff, the fundraising stuff, the taxes, the paying bills, all the not fun stuff, but then you're also having to, in my case, run the program and go drive 15 hours to pick up horses somewhere and receive the veterans and take them to the ranches and do the instruction. It becomes a bunch of work pretty quickly. And so that's something that I think every organization faces at one point or another, that the work just becomes too much for one person. And so it's been a challenge for us to figure out how to expand the organization with the right people to make it scale.
How many partners do you have?
Like ranch partners or
Or employees? I mean, how many people are part of Bear Hug?
so the number would probably vary, but so one full-time person who helps take care of the cattle, our cattle up in Wilsall. And then I'm full-time there too. I don't take a salary, I don't do anything. It's just what I like to do. So I'm not technically on the payroll or anything like that. I'm just the founder and the CEO. And then we have, a dozen people who volunteer throughout the summer during the program, who are unpaid volunteers who just come and contribute in one way or another. And then we partner with, like I said, depending on the year, between 7 or 8 different ranches who, again, not paid or employees or anything like that, but absolutely partners in this.
All right, so it's interesting. There's a couple things that came out of that for me is that one was a phrase that I've heard several times from other business owners or CEOs, that a business isn't scalable if it's reliant on the owner. And so that kind of leads to the question of how much time do you feel like you spend working on the business as opposed to working for the business?
Yeah, so luckily for us, I think that's a great point. Luckily for us, we're seasonal to some extent. So right,
I don't know.
we
Ranching in the
have
wintertime is a hard skill, man.
yeah. Well,
If you're gonna ranch
we don't
cattle in the
have the vets
wintertime,
with
that's
us.
something you got to learn.
Yeah. And we don't have the veterans with us, in the winter. So that gives us, like me, the ability to actually, work on the business and make sure we're hiring the right people and make sure all our paperwork's good and make sure that our lease is finalized or whatever the thing is, like, that needs worked on in the business. It's a natural time of the year for us to do that. Whereas during the summer, we basically don't do any of that stuff, and we're just all hands on deck making the thing actually function. So I think we're lucky in a sense that we get some kind of natural ebb and flow that forces us to run the business, but then forces us to, work for the business as well.
Okay. Um, Personal life. How do you, I mean, ranching's a lifestyle, but you got to have a personal life on the other side. Any tips or tricks, habits that you have to force yourself to have a personal life outside of these projects?
I don't have a personal life outside of this, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. But I also have uh, 2 other jobs that I do, just because, like I said, I've never taken a salary or anything from the nonprofit, just because I want all the money that comes from donors to go straight to the program and helping the vets in there. I think that will likely change at some point. We will need to grow on the organizational side just to keep up with the demand. But for right now, I have 2 other jobs, and so if I'm not um, chasing cattle around or teaching the vets or doing something ranch related, I'm working, doing one of those other things. So I don't generally have much free time or personal time. So
Okay, so you're all in 100%, huh? So what
oh
is
yeah.
it what do you think it looks like in 12 months and 36 months from now?
Yeah, so we're hoping to hire some more of the right kind of people who align with our mission and values to continue to grow the organization. So hopefully I'll be able to take a step back from the day-to-day knife fight that's been my life for the last couple of years. And then yeah, just be able to do more of the things that I probably should be doing at this point anyway, like working, on the business structurally and fundamentally, as opposed to, climbing on a horse and riding around every day.
Well, that's the rewarding part to some extent, right?
Certainly is.
Yeah. So, um, you had a point in there where you mentioned hiring the right people. Here's the opportunity for your shameless plug. Um, what, who do you want to hire?
Yeah, I mean, I could think of 5 different positions we need to hire for, but the number one position we need to hire for right now is someone who knows how to cowboy, knows how to take care of cattle, but also has an interest in slowing things down and teaching people. And those two traits aren't always found in the same people. A lot of times you have people who are willing to teach and they do it really well, but they're don't want to cowboy for a living. And then sometimes you have people who want to just cowboy for a living and but have no interest in doing the instruction portion. So kind of our dream person that we want to hire at this point is someone who has the ability to cowboy and take care of cattle, but also is passionate about slowing things down and teaching the vets in our program how to do things. So it's a part leader, part cowboy is what we'd probably ideally be looking for.
Well, there might be a few people out there, and hopefully we reach them for you so that so you can get them on board because your program's pretty darn impressive. Um, so we'll kind of wrap it up. What would be the one thing you would tell an aspiring entrepreneur or somebody that was going to embark on the journey that you did a few years ago, starting something like this up? What what's your nugget of wisdom?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say don't do it unless you're really passionate and committed to doing it because it's a long grind to do something where you're starting from scratch and you take on a bunch of personal risk and you lose a bunch of time, but it's super rewarding if it is something that you're passionate about. So I would just tell people who are considering entrepreneurship to be aware of the risks and the rewards. It definitely goes both ways if you decide to pull the trigger on doing something entrepreneurial.
Yep, that's a pretty consistent answer that I get, and I hate to have it sound like anybody should be discouraged, but I think the key thing is you have to have a passion for it. And you certainly seem to have passion for what you're doing. You're invested in it because it's important to you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Ben, I can't thank you enough for spending 15 minutes with us here on Navigating to Success. And for everybody who's watching today, looking forward to seeing to you next time. Check out the other episodes. And if you want to be a teacher and you want to be a cowboy, Ben's your man. So look him up. So, any parting shots, Ben?
No, I appreciate you taking the time. This has been great.
All right. All right, everybody take care, and we'll see you next time.